secret labors. I'll do a more general, I'll come with a more general approach. That's what I mean. And then we'll go to pray. What I planned to do was to have a few more of our questions, but I don't know if time will permit. So, okay, I should just continue. Okay. So Pastor Fola will help to answer those questions. They will look for a time to fix the question session. It's good to see you, my dear. Mark chapter 3, from verse 14 to 15. And he ordained 12, that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach. Next verse. And to have power to heal sicknesses and to cast out devils. These two verses of scriptures help to summarize the discipleship system that Jesus pioneered, so that if anyone comes after the shape or his shape as a discipler, there are two basic outcomes that we expect that those who pass through your discipleship or your mentorship or your fatherhood experiences should have. The first is a being with, and we're going to try to labor in unveiling the products of being with. I like your suit. When I grow up, I'll have something like that. The second is that he might send them. That was the shape of Jesus's apostolic setup. Now, before we go further, it is wisdom to understand that the church in its last phase is an apostolic church. And you don't need the word apostolic before the ministry becomes apostolic. It is to instruct that the agenda of God is not to sustain a gathering without end. The agenda of God as regards the activity of his kingdom is designed to function as a duality. On the first side, the kingdom is supposed to find establishment. And that has to do with the emergence of a people who are conscious of the kingship and by extension the lordship of the Christ. A people who do not just understand the givings or the giftings of God, but a people who have come into terms with the government of God. That foundationally your relationship with Christ is as a property. He owns you. And because he owns you, he governs you. Because he governs you, it must be him leading you. He is your head. And just like the head, I was saying a few days ago that if you look at your body structure, the rest of your body can only function along the lines of one physical sense, and that's the sense of feeling. In your head, you have all the other major sense organs that you have. So you see with your head, you hear with your head, you smell with your head, and you taste with your head. It means that the body is supposed to function under the influence of that which the head communicates by sensing. So the body is not permitted to acquire a perspective that is divorced from the activity of the head. Once you sever the body from the head, then the body loses four senses instantly. Are you with me? Now, I also said that it is wisdom to understand that the sense of feeling is a lagging sense. And this is what I mean. If someone is approaching unto me, my eyes will see first, right? If he's saying something, Then after sight, you will likely have maybe hearing. You will have maybe smell. Taste is also a contact sense. But you see, you will not be able to feel the texture of that person until most of the other senses have performed their enterprise. That's why I said it's a lagging one. It means if what is coming is harmful, if all you have is the ability to feel, it will have come on you. So, in essence, the church and indeed the believer, we will lose out on our prophetic nature once we are cut off from the head. We will live by experiences, and many of them terrible ones. Is somebody getting me? So that's what the relationship of the Christ is about, and that's basically what we do when the kingdom is in its establishment phase. What we're trying to do is to build a replica throne in the church, build a replica throne in the home, build a replica throne in individual lives, so that like He's Lord and Christ in heaven, is also Lord and Christ over you. Lord, He governs you. Christ, He becomes the hub from which the anointings are routed. Amen. But that's not the only phase of the kingdom labor. The second side is kingdom expansion. The second layer cannot happen, and that's one of the banes of modern day ministry. The second layer cannot truly happen until the first has taken place. If the kingdom is not established, it cannot find expansion. Sometimes we are so mundane in our arrangement that we seek to expand the kingdom that has not found establishment. So that somebody walks into church and he is immediately thrust into a service unit when he has not fully submitted to Jesus. We just want him to do something that gives a visible expression to the church, even though Jesus is not yet his Lord. And it takes time before Jesus fully becomes your Lord. Your confession occasions the legal side of your submission. But you will need to come into, so it's a transition from Romans chapter 10 to Romans chapter 12. In Romans chapter 10, you confess his lordship, you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, and the Bible says you are what? You are saved. That's the legal side. It didn't cost you anything, you just spoke. But in Romans chapter 12, we will need to come into the organics of his lordship. And what Paul does is that he knows this side cannot be forced because it will cost you. So the word was, I urge. I'm encouraging you. It's the good thing to do, but you may not want to do it. But can you please offer yourselves? Some translations use your body as living sacrifice, or as a living sacrifice, holy. The word holy there is the language of consecration. It means if you were first made holy as a result of that confession, so there's a legal side of holiness. You have been consecrated to God. But when we begin to live with you, we will know if God is the one stewarding your realities. Are you with me? If this microphone is holy, it means probably only the senior pastor can use it. There's no charm inside it. But we have found out that there is a place that God has put him, and so his things need to be his things. That's holiness. Are you with me? So this is the organic side of what happened to you in Romans 10. Holy, acceptable unto God by the legalities of your redemption. The Bible says that you have been accepted in the beloved, but now you will need to live acceptably as a result of your acceptance. Are you with me? And the Bible says this is your reasonable service. It means this service comes out of certain motions of the heart. The currency of admittance into this kind of lifestyle is the understanding of the mercies of God. If you have not pondered on what it cost him to get you this far, you will not offer yourselves. you will gainsay his instructions. But when you have peeped into the sacrifice of the cross and what it cost him to be established as your Lord. I was speaking with my son and we're discussing relationships, and I was saying that one of the problems now in pro-marital relationships is that our ladies are more independent than before. Do you believe it? Brothers, is that not your experience? Talk now. The ladies are more independent. However, you see, the independence of the ladies is not a problem. I found out that no matter how independent a lady is, her submission is a commanded activity. But if you look at the organics of our relationship with Christ, the submission of the woman is not supposed to be an action. It's supposed to be a reaction. Because the woman is the church. The church is not submitted to Christ because she's just fulfilling a commandment. The church can only be submitted because she has pondered on the sacrifices of the Christ. It means wherever you see a barrier to submission, you first need to query the quantity of sacrifices that have been administered to secure submission. I'm going to do a whole teaching on this on Tuesday. There are battles we are fighting. God did not give anybody dominion over another person. And so if you want that dominion, you must look for a system that helps you buy it. And the currency is sacrifice. The reason why I will serve Jesus for the rest of my life is that I'm aware in very clear terms as to what it cost him to produce me a new creation. And even when he did that, I had a choice not to live for him. That's why the Bible calls it a reasonable service. It means there are unreasonable people who come to church. They get schooled every day about the sacrifices of the Christ, but they don't pay attention. They feel, well, what is it not just die on the cross? Is it the first person they are going to pierce on the side? Is it the first person that will bleed? Because they have that mindset. Okay, if he did all that for me, must I serve him? Have you met people like that? You did everything and then you place the demand and say, hey, so because you gave me, are you the only person that can give this thing? So you must be reasonable. Is somebody with me? Good. So now, people must be aware and they must not be manipulated to expanding the kingdom. The process is that first the kingdom finds establishment in them. It's like you're trying to install a software. The software must be adequately installed. That's why instant soul winning is a lie. If you know what the soul is. Because people have been saved for 50 years and their emotions are still governed by self. That soul is not one. When your soul is one, if you are angry, if we check in heaven, God is angry. It means your soul has achieved a mirroring reality. It will take the rest of your life. So the language of scriptures is saved. It means positioned to come into the realities of God, not has achieved the realities of God. Are you with me? Sorry, I know your soul winning is instant, but we can compare products after 2 years. If your soul has been won, fully won, you don't need church. There's nothing I'm teaching this evening that is cooling your spirit. The spirit, the human spirit does not submit to Christ by education. When you called him Lord, your spirit was regenerated. It was an instant thing. Is there any biology student here? The word regenerated means that your genetic see my friend, God bless you. Don't worry. Yeah, see, everybody, I pointed that way and he's the only one that nodded. It means he knows. Oh yeah, stand, let them see you. He can't be the wrong person. You see, he knows. God bless you. God bless you. So what he did was to take out certain chromosomes that expressed contrary to his will. You were a damaged you had a damaged image, took out those ones and put in the right ones. Those chromosomes that made us live a life that was contrary to the original life. That's what he changed. So God in redemption was like a genetic engineer. Are you with me? You can change the species and its ability to react to external stimuli by removing genes and putting new ones. So that the brother, if anything moves, that is a lady, he can turn his head. If he's driving, he can bash the car. But now near naked people pass and he's still looking straight. That's the testimony of an exchange life. They took from him and then they replaced. Is somebody with me? That's how it works. So your spirit knows that Jesus is Lord. Your spirit knows that this body was not appointed to sickness. There's nothing around sickness in your spirit, but your soul doesn't know, because your soul learns from any possible educative source. So we come to church, be not conformed to the standards of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your spirit. Renewal of your mind is inside where? It's your soul. So it's your mind that is being renewed. Are you with me? Good. So that's my emphasis there. These are things that happen, that need to happen, and so that they can happen, when he ordained 12, the first side of their interactions with him was that they should be with him. Every one of us must be with him. And then, because the shape of the church is apostolic, they had to be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach. The strength of an apostolic ministry is not in the number of people that come. It's in the number of sendable men they have produced. Are you with me? So when you have labored for 5 years, maybe you can disband the whole church, send everybody away and into different locations, and check what will happen to those locations, because they came. You can't know who is prayerless if we keep praying like this together. You can't know if there's a thief here. And if a thief came to church, don't steal today. He says, just give your life to Christ. There are places you should not steal. You can't know who is a gossip here, because the way church is even shaped, only the altar speaks, only the platform speaks, right? Except his personal prayer. And I like the way they sit in Believers Banquet, for example. If you want to gossip here, you must be intentional, because the gap is this is not the gap. We are still in like coronavirus mode. So you need to be able to listen to what he's saying. That's what will make you gossip. So because of the arrangement, you may not have the privilege, but when we isolate, everybody emerges in the shade of their current development. That's why the day of ministers who are gods and members who are mortals has passed. It is wickedness to have come into a modicum of knowledge in the kingdom and not be willing to pass it across. We are not trying to hoard what we know, because we understand that coming to him, being with him, is supposed to end in a day of sending. Are you with me? So every one of us will be sent, and according to scriptures, the sending will have at least 2 workings. One is that they will preach, not teach, but preach. Are you with me? It means everyone will be given the assignment to make announcements, to make pronouncements about that which they have experienced of the gospel. Everyone, whether you are in core ministry or you are not in core ministry, 2, next verse. Everyone who has stayed with him is gifted the potential to heal sicknesses and to cast out devils. That's the reality of modern ministry, but it's not. Because preaching many times is captured within the ecclesiastical arrangement, the pulpit guys, and then even casting out devils or healing the sick has stayed there. But the Lord is saying that in the original plan, it was to have it flow into all of the congregation. Now somebody is asking, how does this do with secret labors? If this is the intention of the Lord, or this was the intention of the Lord for his disciples, which by extension is his intention for us, it means at the end you will be schooled, or you will be appraised along these two lines. You will be appraised as to the effectiveness of your sending, and you'll be praised as to the constancy of your being with him. So we could pause for a few moments just to ask ourselves, how much time have I spent with the Lord? And have I graduated into running his errands? The order is very important, and I found out serially in scriptures that you must be careful not to change the order of the speakings of the Christ. He does not send them and then they are with him. They are with him and then he sends them. You cannot run his errand if you do not have a track record of being with him. It is the being with that produces the errand. Have you met people who are trying to labor to touch something in God so that they can do the work? It's that they don't understand that doing the work is supposed to be seamless. Okay, is my phone with you? I'll be expecting. With who? Yes, my iPhone, so that I will know. The mechanic is supposed to be talking to me. Sorry. No. My small phone is the big phone. Okay. Okay, so we're good. All right. Is he off? Yes, it's silent. So, if you have not been with him, then he cannot send you. And in case you did not spend quality time with him, such that one of those days you were with him, you stumbled into a conversation that suggested that you were going to be sent. We have a lot of people on the landscape like that. That when he had told them he was going to, when they heard that they were going to be sent, they moved. I remember a few years ago, about 3-4, I was on my way to Abuja, and a young man engaged me for almost 2 hours, back and forth conversations. He was trying to peep into my journey from the call, and I don't mean the call. By the call, I mean the notification that I was going to do ministry. I was going to live my life running his errands, to when I stepped out. And I said, for me, it was 13 years, special difference. I shared this story, how my labor was just to have a robust fellowship with Jesus. I was a secondary school student. And one of those days, my being with him produced hearing. And what he said to me was, let me show you the future. There are many things I don't understand about people's labors. Such as somebody says, I don't know the future, and he's trying to pray hard to find the future. My question will be, did God promise you he will show you? You are not supposed to pursue anything in prayer that has not been revealed as available to you. Are you with me? God answers prayers, but he can't be manipulated by it. So it was, I think I was in SS2, rounding up SS2. And he said, I want to show you the future. Oh, I felt I was going to end up being a chemical engineer. I think that time I was even still thinking medicine. It was my final year. I got to know what's going to be chemical engineering. I said, okay, what should I do? Because God could of his own will just tell me what he wanted to tell me. I learned early that when God says, I want to, it's a communication of his intention that cannot be perfected without participation. So the question is not, when will you do it? The question is, what's my contribution? So he now said, look at that fish pond area. It had a barbed wire fence around it, and then a gate. He said, that's the most quiet place on your campus. You will meet me there every night from tomorrow, from 12 to 3, and you will ask me for destiny. Okay. Now, I didn't know that prayer was difficult. I mean, to stay stretched 3 hours in prayers, you need to be extra human. It's easier when you pray in tongues. Faith, have you prayed in English or Yoruba for 2 hours stretch before? That means you every time tongues wants to suppress and just continue. You find out that praying in tongues is a gift the gift is beyond value. You can come with 1,000 prayer points. How do you pray, I need a shoe? No, how do you pray, I need a shoe? Lord, I need a shoe. You don't need to keep repeating it. If you are repeating, Lord, I need a shoe, one of two things is happening. One, you're either praying the prayer of faith, and that allows for repetition. Because this is what you have told me, so I'm going to keep telling you. Or you'll be guilty of vain repetition. I hope you all understand what vain repetition is. So you mean if a man comes and says, a house, Lord, a house, Lord, a house, you can't call it vain repetition. Because God is not anti-repetition. What makes repetition wrong is that it can be vain. Are you getting me? The Bible explains what vain repetition is. That they do it thinking that by that repetition they will be heard. So they are relating with a God whose eardrums are slightly disjoint, and they think if we say long enough, that's what will make him hear. You see, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. It becomes vain because it is not of faith. So I can be repeating the same thing, and that's how our fathers used to pray. Oluwa, wa, Oluwa, wa, Oluwa, wa, Oluwa, 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 Oluwa. And if you were not there in the beginning, you will not know the prayer point. They may choose the end. It may just be wa, 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 wa. And if you have stayed long on a CSC mountain before, after a while, all you'll be hearing is and you'll be wondering, is this thing prayer? But when it comes down, you will find out that an encounter happened. People need to go to mountains. You will learn prayer differently. A minister said to us in a meeting, he said, people who say, oh God, he said, that's not prayer. You need to be specific. He said, God, I want a house. You see, even his English, I know he has not prayed long. One of my most loved ministers. It's a pity I'm not submitted to him. But I'm happy, I'm excited with where Jesus has put me. That's the Pastor Paul Adefas. If you meet, I've been to his house a couple of times. When he's praying, he prays like us. His English is purely Nigerian. Yes, that foreign accent is lost. And you find out on stage, when the thing enters him, he throws away that thing. And have you heard him speak in Yoruba before? When the thing enters him, he chooses Yoruba, or he chooses, you'll be wondering. And then before you pick him, he has moved back into that is fine. That other one is finishing school. But finishing school does not have the capacity to steward burdens accurately. My focus is on being with him. Because it's in being with him that we master the dynamics of going for him. You know, in Isaiah there was a problem that was occasioned in Isaiah's visions. In the 8th verse, there was a sound that gave voice to the quest of heaven. It was, who shall we send? That was God seeking for a man. And we don't know how many men showed up available, but heaven complicated the request. It was, who will go for us? So one was a quest for availability. The other was a quest for accurate existence, or a quest for a trusted vessel. Because many people did not stay long enough to imbibe the culture, to imbibe the nature of the Christ, so that in the day that they went for him, the witness that people came into was a skewed witness. God was not seen separate from the flesh. It was not, the holiness of God was not mixed. The power of God was seen. The grace of God was seen, but the holiness of God was not seen. And it is with the holiness of God that God separates himself into a class of his own. I went for a conference about 7 years ago. I still remember, because we fought for 3 years. We now reconciled. I'll share with Oba. I'm learning how not to rebuke people in the public. It's my thing. Because I feel if I do it in the public, it will pain you. You will quickly change. So I walked into the conference, and they were singing this song. Hallelujah is a heavenly language. Sing, I know you know it. Don't worry, we are not doing any doctrinal work on the song. Just hallelujah. Hallelujah. Then it has a bridge. Hallelujah. Angels are singing. Hallelujah. Oh, sing now. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So they began to repeat the song, and then they came into a frenzy. There's a way you sing that song, and then you add claps to it, and then the whole place becomes worked up. And if you're a smart minister, that's the time to say, take it. And so that's the cheat code to making people fall down. If it's a life ambition, just walk them into a frenzy. They are already out of balance. You need to learn these things. Their center of gravity is no longer low. So if you stretch your hand, you'll fall down. So, and you can, in trying to gain a reputation, you can now name the number of, say, like they say, he has preached in many places. Under his ministry, 200 people have fallen. So when I now got in, I now sat, I was with Daniel. I now sat and I felt, angels inside this place. No. Then I began to critique the song. I don't have any problem with the song, but they made me critique the song. That heavenly language. So after a while, they now saw that I was around. They didn't even know when I came. It was a little bit large conference. So they now took me to the stage. And when I got to the stage, I now said, all the people that organized this conference, stand up, stand up. So all of them now stood up. And now I asked them, this song was supposed to take people to heaven. They said yes. I said, what's the apportioned reality, heaven's reality, for this conference now. I want to hear it now. Let the people know what you're experiencing. So somebody said the power of God is coming. Somebody said the angels are coming. I said, okay. What I was taught was that if you say the power of God is coming, the power comes. If you can recognize it, you can location it. So I told Daniel, start playing. I was just learning that thing too. Maybe that's why I decided to use them as practical. So I said, Daniel, play. So he was just playing. After a while, he stumbled on a chord and began to repeat the chord. Repetitions of chords or chants are not Christian practices. They are spiritual. Are you with me? When these guys want to do something bad, they need their spirits to enter a place where they can no longer feel compassion. So they pick a line and they keep chanting. When you do that, your soul becomes weak, and then a door to embody spirits opens to you. Are you with me? So me, I love chants a lot, but I tell people, please sing a lot in understanding. You are safer if you don't have a guide and if you only use chants. So Daniel was playing, and as that sound kept coming, I found out that the sound came from heaven. And I picked the lyrics of the song. It was a song about the holiness of God. I couldn't fully articulate the song, but I just knew, holy, holy are you, Lord. Holy, play now, man. Holy are you, Lord. Something like that. That's what was playing. And when we did it 4 times, you could not stand in that meeting. Everybody was on the ground. Even me, I was. Holy, holy are you, Lord. It's even more arranged now. It was very scattered because I was struggling to hear. So we could not preach because we could not stand. Even me, I was afraid. So I now stepped over the people, and I went to. I remember one guy held my shoe and said, "Sir, bless me, bless me." That's when I told. When the guy asked me the 3rd time, I said, "Lord, let him suffer so that the anointing can stay on me." Yes, because the anointing is not just what you call an anointed man. It's an embodiment of pain and a gift. The gift penetrated far because pain opened the door. There are dealings. So the next morning they came to my lodging. I said, "You boys supposed to be having morning session." They said, "We have sent everybody home." I said, "Why?" They said, "We don't know what we're doing." So that's how the conference ended anyway, because what they were trying to pipe into, when the holiness of God comes, He separates what you are doing from what God is doing. And if you are sincere, you can know if a conference was commanded or you just put it together. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. For you are holy. Holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb. Oh Jesus, worthy is the Lamb. Amen. Can we just take 2 minutes to acknowledge the holiness of God? Just 2 minutes. We are on a procession. We will arrive very soon. Melo seso talahantumia sedoste hanatoa. Erinon kebrakite gasanto sihad. Ai compenso so kamomianto lenahata. Baptetono same nombre dos kakuta same. My bron conte se sane note. Vai precatambre nomilato. Ai babo beranta te so sama. Ameni no me rote biba samiote. Sambambe le mote. Sambambe latimante babo. Babresina mombe lavasata. Ai papele campandia dosia sai. Amina granda scopa bresca mikata. Babeli capaposa. Lemino melio sesinado. Retinanda baite siseneto. Binomene. Ane binonto le barato totoasa. Sabon bebena. Teliante maniatoata. Are you Lord Almighty? Hey! Hey, Motirada, Vibres, Sisoneta. Amen. Abela so siahando hadeya. Nemenoria vedo so seledahaya. Helidato soho, penfronele, finania toko, ante fepelis kemota, ai barata tendos kemimo. Obemomo shabala dami bebele tosha, shande memeno rabasanse penota. Ratabasian somenato. Amen, 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 amen. Is his name? Is his name? Amen, 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 amen. Oh, akomome mahata. Amen, amen. One more time. Amen, 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 amen. Amen, 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 amen. Oh, amen, amen, amen. Yes. Even now there are communications of reality. There are things that God is unlocking. We are not where we are going, but He has journeyed from His eternal conveniences to meet us on the road. What I sense in the building is a sanctifying reality. A couple of us have been rid of the potency in the areas of iniquity. He's washing. He's washing. He's dealing with the things that do not bring him pleasure. Ayababo. Satan may be more bele susamamota. Bile bieneno siselenote. Jesus, He comes with a flame to burn the deposits of the enemy, that which has predisposed us to living contrary to His will. He burns, He burns, He burns, He burns, He burns beyond recovery. Oh, Samino Telene, Bameli Kopelo Siabaratokaya. I told me Komehato, Bekata Beriska Bilikiata, Dato Bele Kubebu Samilota. They are burdens that are dropping. They are weights of sin, weights of iniquity. Imbrakoto sekalitado, I momeno tokato, I moka sadutala, ablambaratolas kabal. Jesus. Amen. 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 In the name of Jesus. You may be seated if you can. Kero hakatifiso sonofitato. Leto fisuni avrahande sisefitoso en pofenosi farano tu as avite sesuhate. For that which stood against you seemed to overcome, because you were without the gates. And tonight I bring you in into a plane of potency. I bring you into a plane of potency. I bring you into a plane of potency. That again you will come in contact with that which hindered, but it will no longer have power over you. Beyosos elifilar dovranto femposefan du hudia marafis tenosofano. Le kufro testo ve kivara etosco itata emreni sesite dia. For I have sent in years past, but tonight I send forth again. I send forth again. I send forth again. You will go with another dose of strength, conquering and to conquer. Yonana kompesu suhato. Oh, Mami Frida Lucia Tabaya. It is not a time to leave. In this season, I will bring unto you the tokens of victory. You have inquired for many years, but I come, but I come, but I come. Pombra koku kakakato, elula tiaso susuta, kedoktadu, kedoktasino prato vetome, babento bitiso sato, dei barite via tata, if it tote satai. You have cried, you have wept in loneliness, but they that be with you are more than those that be with them. I bring encouragement, I bring strength, I bring potency, for the seasons of your prevailing have come, saith the Spirit of God. I am Baba Shahata. Ira baba shenda nina note fina ni aseta palianto kemora kapasata. The curtains are off you. The curtains are off you. You have labored before me, and for this season you have labored. Now I take off the curtains, that the world may behold what I have prepared for this day of contention. I show forth my jewels, saith the Spirit of the Lord, that the world can see. For a season of annunciation has come, and earth will come into the fellowship of that which my servant has embodied in this day of conquest. Oh, great Jehovah, I am. You are the most high God. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen. You may please be seated. The call of the believer is a mixture of the common and the unique. You will find out that when the disciples for 3.5 years accompanied with Jesus, their experiences were common experiences. Seldom will Jesus draw one aside and speak to them. It means that the things that make for strength largely lie in the realms of the common. We all will need to do the same things to stand. Is somebody with me? He ordained 12. And if he decides to ordain 1,000,000, it will be the same protocol. That they should be with him. That's onto the viewing center. He said, sit down. I know his voice. You see, the confusion about, was it God that spoke to me or something told me? It's not designed to be solved in the classroom. It's designed to be solved in the secret place, because it's a place of knowings. Is somebody with me? So I sat. Pick a pen. I picked a pen and a jotter. For I will speak to you. And so I sat. So when my housemates came and said, it's time for the football match. Tolu, you are playing today. I said, I'm not going. The one who wants to work in the light of his countenance, and I'm quoting a verse of scripture. The Bible says, blessed are they that know the joyful sound. Those who have had encounters, intercourse with the joyful sound. The Bible says, for they shall work. We're in Africa now. It's part of the world. That's what I was telling my wife this afternoon. I said, well, this suit thing. It makes us look very well. It makes us look very good. But I just like it casual. Papa warned me one time. I said to him, you can't be doing these jeans and jean jacket. Say, dress well, dress well. You see, you are an international person. So, if not, let me not tell you what I'll look like. I'm trying to find a way around it anyway. So I sat. And the first half finished, my friends came and said 0-0. Just did not even play well. So I became bothered, as though my going there, because me, I pray when I'm watching. Say, Lord, help them, help them, help them. Say, we are one goal down. Say, just let us win two. Okay, let's do 1-1. And last season was a lot of prayers. Oh God. Until I got tired and said, you will not be relegated, but stay there. So, as they walked out for the second half, the Lord now said, relax. It's 3-0. Who won? He said, Chelsea. That's the only thing. So if I had anything to write in 90 minutes, it was just the score. He didn't say any of that. 70th minute, 0-0. 80th minute, 0-0. 83rd minute, 1-0. 86 or 87, 2-0. 90 plus 1, 3-0. So my friends now came back. Kai, Tolu, you missed. I said 3-0. You check somewhere. I said the Lord told me. And they needed a lot of convincing to know that God tells those kind of things. So my question to them was, does he know? Because if he knows, he can tell. Are you with me? From that day, the tug for I must be there left me. And I went into, are we winning? Say no, I'm beating Chelsea today. So before they go to what the match, I'm already in morning state. Say no, we'll not play well today, they win us. Like this last Nigeria-England, I asked the Lord, can our girls meet up? He said they'll play well. Would they win? He said no. So I was already in morning state. I didn't even check anything. It was in the afternoon. And so was it 5-0 they beat us? And that was penalties. So I now went back to watch the match. I didn't watch the penalties anyway. I just watched the match, saw the beautiful football, and I faded away. You have not known him if you have not known him in secret. So it's a place of knowings, and everyone that will represent him must wear the badge of the knowledge of God. As a matter of fact, it's the only ground for boasting in the kingdom. If any man glory, let him glory in that he knoweth God. Some translations use the word me. He knoweth me and he understandeth me. And maybe I should announce to you that understanding is deeper than knowing. Because understanding gives you the privilege of predicting God on certain occasions. You can walk into a church, and as you come in from the door, when you look into the church, you can go home. You can conclude that God will not come here today. Because in understanding, you can connect the dots, knowledge dots together, and produce an outcome. The average person believes that God can do everything. Let me say it that way. You know what I'm saying, but God can. Activity. That's where understanding comes in. And it is not learnt in class. It is learnt in the place of interactions. Because the secret place is a house of encounters. Many of them not spectacular. Many of them not. If you look at I've told you, you see, the way to know is just look at the model. How many spectacular encounters did the disciples have in 3.5 years? How many? Jesus was so human to them that Peter could draw him aside and say, if I hear you say you will die again. Don't talk like that. And he didn't fall down and die. So he too thinks like that. He sent 12 of us to get food for 13 persons. No wonder he was going to have a visitor. There were many things that crossed their hearts that the Bible veiled us from. But they were so at home with his humanity. Yet, he was their master. In no way did his ordinariness, if there's a word like that, tamper with his divinity. No way. But so that if you don't come close enough, you will not know what he's capable of. Mary had been schooled for 30 years. The Bible didn't give us a picture. But you know, the miracle at the wedding, Cana in Galilee, was his first public miracle. If your translation is a good one, you will see public. The Bible did not say that was his first miracle. If not, on what grounds did Mary say whatever he tells you? It means he has been telling people. He has been telling things, and we have been doing it, and we have been saved from shame. It was by experience. So she could advertise him in a shape that no other person could. I'm sure the party owners must have been shocked when Mary went to Jesus to say the wine has finished. We don't know what else had finished. Maybe one day the flour had finished, the oil had finished. and he had given instructions. You will not be a bold representative of the Christ if you have not fellowship with him in the secret. The psalmist came into the public and began to let out a cry. Early, oh Lord, thou art my God, early will I seek thee. My soul longeth for thee, my flesh thirsted for thee, in a dry and weary land where no water is, to see your power and glory as I have seen in the sanctuary. Now that thing you rehearsed to me inside, that was Moses. Nobody was there when his hand became leprous and when he picked up a serpent as a stick. Are you with me? But those private rehearsals were for public showings. So it's in the secret that a space to play host to a spirit or a spiritual reality. Everything. How do they make witchcraft bird? They say that's Genesis. They say there's something like witchcraft bird. Abi, you believe it? No. You are a man of God. You believe it? Yes. You can smuggle the craft into a bird. There's even witchcraft cockroach. Yes, now. Okay, they said I want gecko too. But I don't know why a human being should be afraid of witchcraft that came inside wild gecko. Eh? The craft did not choose something. Come as a human being. Abi, come as a human being. Yes, the serpent was subtle, but God had to judge, and the reason why God judged man was that the vehicle of your temptation was supposed to be something you had dominion over. That Satan could find space inside that thing means that there was a breach in your authority. So it will now come in a even witchcraft snake, if they go on its own, it will die. One of those super moons last year, early last year, late 2 years ago. You know what a super moon is? There's a day when the moon is closer to the earth. It experiences a shift on its orbit and is closer to us. So the moon looks as if it's lower and it's larger. A lot of enchantments happened that night. So I was in prayers. And then we had a power outage at about 8:50. The super moon became very visible at 8:30 because it was on the internet. So I was out to switch on the generator. My wife was inside. I think maybe she was pregnant that time or not. And I saw her running to open the door. So I screamed. I'm not yet at the door. It was because a bat had got into the door, and that the knock of that bat was like a human being. She was pregnant that time. That was 3 years ago. It was loud, and with the sequence that a man will have knocked. So I told her, switch on the security light outside, and I saw the bat, maybe the largest I've seen anywhere. Was using one hand to knock the door. So immediately he turned and saw me, ran towards the front of our neighbor's house. I followed it, ran towards the gate, and there's a hole under the gate, went straight for the hole under the gate, escaped. I quickly tried to move the gate over. It had gotten outside, was running to the gutters. So I took a big stone and just dropped it on it, squashed it. He died once. And in my heart I had a witness that you can be sued for murder now. See, somebody has died. Somebody has died. So I now went inside to call my wife. The bat was under a big stone. That stone delivered a blow in death once. So the person will just say, ah! But when we came out, the stone was where it was, but the bat was not. Means the person went to die at home. It's better for us that way. So one of the undoings, if it was a person, I could not have dropped a stone on the person, but I have dominion over this thing. It's not even the king in the air. So if you come through it, you will suffer that fate. How did we get to this craft thing? The spirit of things, right? So everything has that capacity, but how did we get there? Help me, Lord. Being with him. Encounters. How did Peter get to know? Now, how am I remembering? You don't know when I asked him to help me remember now, but he's helping me. How that Peter did not formally learn how to hear him. He was just exposed to the utterances of Jesus, and because he already had capacity to hear a spirit, now the utterances of Jesus helped to tune him to a particular frequency. It's the physics phenomenon called resonance. When you expose an object that operates at a weaker frequency to one that operates at a higher frequency, what happens is that the object at the higher frequency begins to manipulate the frequency of the lower one until both of them are harmonized in frequency. So if you stay long with the written word, what it will do is to change your frequency of hearing. You were on 52.1 and he's piping out on 120.5. If you keep being exposed to 120.5 subliminally below your consciousness without any labels, you will find out that you will soon be on 120.5. That's how hearing is mastered. That's why when God speaks, he does everything to make sure that whatever he says has a root in his word, because that's his tuning tool. Is somebody getting me? But it is perfected in secret. And like I said to us again, if you are studying to preach, you can't unlock that dimension. The realm of the spirit rewards the labors of everybody. If you are trying to look for preaching material, you will find it. You'll be a good preacher. Have you found people who say, when other people come to me and they ask questions, I know things about them, but it's my own, I don't know? Because the outworkings of your life are powered by anointings. The internal workings of your life are designed to be powered by fellowship. When you see that phenomenon repeated, let it be a warning to you that you don't have a life. It means you've been very far away from the secret place and you are just spending what is outside. The way ministry is supposed to be done is that the energies come from being with, not just impartations. Is somebody getting me? They come from being with. The instructions come from being with. Me, I seek God for things, so to say, Lord, tell me these things. But most of the things I do are picked up in subliminal fashion. I'm just studying, and he says, that's the next thing you're going to do. Oh, thank you, Father. And I have it in my notes. I used to use different notes until I found out that because he's God, he speaks only when he wants to speak. So you can't give God a 7-day ultimatum. Even the one they gave the junta at Niger, the guys flouted it with ease. So how much more God? God, if you don't talk to me on this before the end of 7 days, I will do what is on my mind. Do it. He performs all things according to the counsel of his own will. It includes that he comes to speak to you when he wants to come. So even those who have secret place activities, you do not stop until it comes. The end of prayer is a visitation, not an answer. Are you with me? Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God, and the peace of God. You are not praying for peace. What you wanted was house rent. But what he gives in response to house rent is peace. So that when your landlord comes and says, this boy, I will send you out at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and the tomorrow comes. Or he comes at 10 p.m. to say you have 12 hours. You will still sleep. What produces that sleep is peace. Your roommate will say, we'll be homeless tomorrow. Say, okay, rest. People don't understand it when I say rest. What are we going to do? I don't know. Because what to do is not what produces rest. It's his peace. Say nothing will happen. Our wedding was stormy. We changed our venue like 2 or 3 times. Because every time we picked a new venue, our contender said, we know your new venue is at this place. We'll come to scatter the wedding. So we're at our wedding. So we chose another place. We got joined under a tree because that was the safest place to be joined. But if you were diabolic and you came into that environment, your chances of survival were very low. Like your chance of survival is 0. So Papa called me on Wednesday. He said, Tolu, you come into Ibadan on Friday morning. I arrive on Thursday night. I said, why? He said, bro, nothing will happen here. And I went to sleep. Because if I can't handle it, that's why it's Apostle Roman that said nothing. So we came in on Friday and I had an accident. One sleeping guy slammed the back of our car. Papa, he said, relax. So he showed up the following morning with Reverend Austin, with Reverend John from Lagos, with Pastor Tayadari from Ibadan. And Apostle Mike was preaching in UI. So he told Apostle Mike, I bought your session, join us here. So the fortification was massive. We don't have pictures, too many. You can't see them online. There's one strange YouTube video that we saw. I don't know who did that thing, but it was not us. So as we're dancing inside, I said, Papa, don't follow us for this one. We need to prostrate there. He said, brother, go, let me take your back. So he was in his suit as I was dancing in my brother, and I don't know why my wife married me, because I still saw that thing today and I was wondering, even me, I would not have married me like this. I looked so lean. You don't know the prayers we prayed. So as I was in, he wasn't dancing too well, but he was the one at my back to say, anything that happens here, we crack it. That's what the peace of God does. I think Pastor Racine was around too. That's RC anybody? Yes. Quite a number of other people. If it was now I wanted to marry, it would be difficult to breach it, because the camp will have become very big. We'll have evangelists, prophets, and if you come to scatter it, we'll disciple you. May God put you in a good company. My spiritual family is a massive blessing. Hey, it's a massive blessing. That secret place. Many of the things you want to know will be known there, and they will be known effortlessly. Because in that secret place, your labor does not capture being agitated about what he's not interested about. One day I asked him, they're abusing me that I've not married though. He said, what is working in your life? I said, ministry. He said, focus on ministry. In his books, he had not decided marriage, and so it was not up for discussion. Are you with me? There are worries, there are pains we have. Some people are just 1 month to the blowout. I mean, to the explosion of their labor. but they can't see it because they are not there. And they are worrying, they are trying to bring in extra labors that can give them another 2 years. I can't say enough. In the Acts of the Apostles, they beheld the disciples. And the Bible said that these elders, these teachers of the law, they discerned that even though they were unlearned men, the articulation of their conviction was proof that they had been with Jesus. If I have the privilege to teach what is the secret of your ministry, me, it will be hearing in the secret place. Now that secret place can be on the bike. Me, I know this country will not crash. I heard it in the secret place. When I was in the Bomoshore this afternoon, I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and the Lord began to speak to me, and I put it on. This is what he's still saying. My big brother, Reverend Austin, he's in the UK. Reverend Austin said, Tolu. I said, Baba, you get something we want. Now wait till God tell me that. I'm not afraid to say what I heard. I have proved that voice again and again. I knew this was not, for Nigeria, this was not ease. I knew this was going to be bad. They said the dollar exchange this morning for 909. In some places, 905.90. So, Pastor Fola, if we had gone to the bank to buy 1,000 USD 3 months ago, at maybe like 447, it means now we'll have doubled our money for doing nothing. So, what of the people who bought $1 million USD? Some people have become very rich without buying land, without doing anything. There are people in this building that had USD and exchanged at 620, because what came to your mind was, I don't need this money now, but before it becomes 200, because you live in the outer court, you will have made a lot of money. Some people had dollars, they've converted it to naira and kept their money in naira. The things I'm sharing are not for pastors. Because of the uncertainties in the world, you need to find your way into a place of constancy. And it's only in the secret place, laboring not just for things, but to come into the knowing of the one that apprehended you. That's how you survive. What are the things we labor into? 1 is to know him. 2 is to understand him. 3 is to sustain sights of him. And I'm going to tell you how this works, especially for ministry. One of the things God does in the secret place is that he makes himself bare. What's the color of my chest? What's the color of my chest? Do you operate in a 5-fold office? What office? Okay. Who is the prophet here? Anybody who operates in the prophetic office? Oh yeah, now. What's the color of my chest? Am I hearing? No, let's try. No, some prophets, that's where their specialty is to know the color of people's singlet. So am I hearing? Does my wife need to be a prophet to know it? She needs an anointing to know the color of my chest, to know if I'm hearing. If she needs to, then she's not my wife. Because she's privileged to come into a place where I can bear myself to her. Are you with me? So there are things people are trying to achieve by gifts, by activity, that proximity will give you access to. Are you with me? Now, beyond the knowing that comes from seeing him, is that in John chapter 14, Jesus morphed, but the disciples did not understand, and likely the church has not come into that understanding. That John chapter 14 was actually an organic protocol that Jesus was introducing, a protocol that could only happen if he went to the cross. I've shared it many times. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not have told you. And so I go to prepare a place for you. Where? In my Father's house. What was introducing them was the change from Christ, the man, into Christ, the body. So that every one of us believers, when you believe in the Lord, you are spiritually brought into a ministry of lands kind of arrangement, where an aspect of the geography now called Christ is gifted to you, and you become that part. Are you with me? The word mansions there is translated dwelling places, because before the cross there was only one living temple in the earth, Jesus alone. Are you with me? So Jesus alluded to this many times, confirming that the Father dwelt in him. In John chapter 14, he said to the disciples that the dwelling of the Father was currently with them, but then he shall be in them. So the cross was what occasioned God dwelling in them, but he was already living out the first reality of the mystery of godliness, which is God being embodied in a man. Are you with me? All right. Now, because your ultimate reality is that you feature in the body of Christ, it means you need to see the Christ. And that's where we get vision from. Your life's vision, which is the communication of your life's purpose, is not going to be found watching Netflix. It's not going to be found attending a vision meeting. It's not going to be found in the midst of a discussion. It's going to be found only because you saw him. Because when you see him, you see you. Are you with me? You find out that the apostles in the epistles were so focused and their personally, and their labor was to apprehend Christ, because they knew that anything that they spent their lives doing that was outside the context of the Christ will not attract a place in the hereafter. When I meet ministers and I want to really get serious with you, one of the questions I ask is, what's your vision? So my vision is to raise 100 billionaires. It's not a bad vision. And if that's your vision, they say that money is the bicycle of evangelism. How many of you have heard it before? Is keke not okay? There's another thing they call keke. Abi? So it can also be they call them mopeds. I've forgotten the name they call them in India. It's an Indian construction. So at least it's money that facilitates. That's what they mean. So we can. It's not a bad vision. But we need to check if Jesus is attempting to do that. Your life is supposed to be a continuation of what Jesus did, or what Jesus wanted to do. Are you with me? No matter how beautiful it is, and the fact that it's working, that now you have raised 70, does not mean that your vision is captured in Christ. Productivity does not justify the authenticity of your vision. Men with dark hearts can create rain even in dry season. Does their potency mean that they are of God? So it's in that place that we find vision. I found out in my studies that in every dispensation, God has an intention. And because his intention requires men, what he does is that he fragments that intention into little portions, and that's what we receive as purposes. But he curates those things in himself. So if you have not met him, you can't know who you are. You can't know what he wants you to do. Everything you are doing will not count in his realm. It has to be in Christ. So when we come to him, we find vision. And you must have well seen what you are seeing before you can well describe what you are seeing. Are you with me? It all comes with staying. The design of the realm of the Spirit in total, and for us the realm of the Holy Ghost, is that whatever this is the source of your vision, must also be the source of the enablement that fulfills it. If you envisioned from the soul, you will need to leverage on the energies of the soul to fulfill it. How? Walking with God is cheap. Because everything he says you do. When he sent out the 72, they were not to look for what to do it with. He first empowered them. The things you don't have enablement for are likely the things that he did not send you to do. For example, one of the signs that people have arrived in ministry is that they do many conferences. And I've been fighting this thing for many years. So maybe I'll talk to Pastor Judah. Pastor Judah has words to help me fight this thing. So I'll tell you. Anything God is sending you to do, he will give you the favor to get it done. He will give you the supplies to get it done. If it is difficult, go back to him. Don't try. If you live that way, you will live free. You know, banks have this, some banks have this thing they call church loan. And the church loan is not supposed to be for the welfare of the pastor. It's supposed to cover for projects like building, and it's supposed to cover for maybe power or conferences. But the church loan is not structured to be paid back on weekdays. It is paid back on the day that church makes money. So it's on Sunday they come for it. So that when you borrow, you don't have rights to your takings. They'll come with a box. I've seen it happen in the church I've been in before. They come in Sunday like 12:31 and they sit at the back. You may be tempted to say, if you came late, please give offering. No, these ones didn't come to give offering. They came to take it. So there's a percentage of every day's takings. And God takes at least 10%. They don't take 10%. Sometimes they do 45, 50. Until you are finished paying. Sometimes some churches cannot pay. And then we now have to go by the way of miracles. I heard about a church that are taking that kind of loan and we're owing 20 million. So that the pastor stopped going to church. Lagos, so he stopped going to church. Because those people were not coming in the afternoon. Since we have not seen you, you shall preach. We'll come. So it was said that, I won't tell you the denomination. It was said that one Sunday morning, he was walking around and met a strange man. But you're a pastor. He said, yes. Why are you not going to church? I said, we owe 20 million. Why? So we are doing a project. We have not even, the church that they are coming to collect money from, they have not even finished building it. So it's inside that incompleted, it's the money for phase 1 that they are coming to collect. So he now said, okay, how much are you owing? He said 20 million. How much to complete the thing? So we need another 28. So the guy moved 48 million and said, go to church. You like that kind of miracle, Abi? But I've dragged God's name in the mud for a few weeks. Pastors, don't hold a conference that will put you in debt. Owing people is not a legitimate thing. Are you with me? Everything you do as a minister, what you are teaching the people is that that is what God looks like. For our building, for example, I was sharing, and that little excerpt that they cut out of the financing I spoke in your build has gone far. I've got calls from UK, from Canada. Somebody called me from Australia last week and said they saw it because I think Prince cut out that thing on church finance. There is no project that must be done except God commands it. We don't do projects because there's a need. Are you with me? Oh, we need a generator. We must buy one. No, he must command it. If we need a generator and we can't afford one and he has not commanded it, then we will do services without power. Are you with me? If he's not Lord of all, he's not Lord at all. Pastors, you were not called to help God. I was doing a ministers conference. We did it at that Carries thing. Me and one pastor from Lagos. And I said to them, the first thing to learn as a minister is that God does not need you. If we don't do evangelism now, people will go to hell. God can save them without you. You are just a privileged partner. And if you misbehave, you are dispensable. Are you with me? God can self-do everything he wants to do. The story of redemption demonstrates it. He wondered why there was no intercession. He called and there was none that came. And so he bore his arm, and his arm wrought salvation for himself. There were many people in the earth. When God didn't see anyone, he took on flesh and came to die by himself. His possibilities are endless. If he has chosen you, you have just fortunate to be chosen. So your gift of gratitude or your communication of gratitude is not thank you for choosing me. It's that you will live well. If our generation fails and everything will fall, you are a liar, you don't know God. Go back to school. He can live without you. He can win without you. He doesn't need numbers to win. As a matter of fact, most of the major conquests that God has wrought in history were stewarded by one man. If he does not find this man, he can wait to build this man. Do you know for how many years Saul was misbehaving? 38 years. From year 2 of his 40-year reign, God was already sad. It means most likely David was not born when God got sick with Saul. And so God needed to wait till his man was born and built walls around his man. Ensure that he didn't grow up at home, so that he will feel he can be acquainted with the plight of the poor. He was the youngest, but he was sent into the field. By Jewish standards, when he was anointed king, he had not come into adulthood, so he was not called a son. Bring your sons, and they didn't bring him. David showed up when Samuel said, are these all thy children? So he was still a child. First time anointed, he was about 18. That means that Saul had started misbehaving before he was born. So God, it cost God nothing to make a woman pregnant because of your misbehavior. It just means that people will weep longer until that one emerges. And if that one misbehaves, he will start again. He knows how to start again. When we started ministry, I had a assistant pastor. who was misbehaving serious. You don't know. Was misbehaving serious. I was looking for a way to convince him, give him privileges and all of that. One day I now told him, okay, the templates of making men, I got it from God. If you go away, I will start again. So when he left, it was in 100 level. Pastor Lamde now. It was in 100 level. 100 level. Yes, 100 level. I was going for a meeting in Jos and I said, you will preach. He said, me? What will I say? So he came to the altar. And he said tearfully, I know that these shoes are too big for me to step into, but God will help me. And he began to pray in tongues. After his first 10 minutes in tongues, he began to preach. And when I heard the sermon, I had tears in my eyes. God can dispense with anybody. Are you with me? So the things that we are saying must be adhered to. Don't lead the people of God to do what God has not commanded. You don't move because there is a need. You move because he has commanded it. A pastor sold his car and joined the cooperative, a Baptist pastor. I know him very well. It was because he wanted to make sure that by ministers' conference, it was already his turn to take his share, you know, so that he will use that cooperative, so that he will ride a car to ministers' conference to say, God has been fair to me. How can you be trying to help God to be fair to you? 2 days after he sold he joined the cooperative. That's 2 days after he sold it. It was a bit. Somebody now gave him a BMW 3 Series American spec. His ajo would not have bought that car. I think God wanted to clear his mind. That don't help me. Many of our church growth systems are earthy. And they work, they will get people. But you find out that the congregation is not as, how did the Bible put it? The Bible says God added to them as many that were to be saved. It means the people that will come will not be people that God has prepared in their hearts. They will come after the order of Ishmael, and they will pierce your heart with sorrows. It is God who added in the Acts of the Apostles. It is God who must still add now. Is somebody getting me? It's God who must still add. The stones at the temple site were chiseled stones. There was no noise there. Now we have used methods. I saw a ministry online, Facebook. They were looking for volunteer marketers. And I thought they were selling something. The job of the volunteers is to hit a monthly church entrance target. And then they will be paid. Maybe 2 weeks ago. Even if you do it from people in church, it's better. But volunteers, it means these people are not, they may not even be godly people. See, I told you about those who are renting, who were trying to rent crusade craft. like politicians have pioneered it. And so the church also trying to do it. And we had that meeting. 200,000 people came. Meanwhile, what we did was that we went to Shao and paid people to come for the meeting. We don't, their job is come. The end of their coming is not redemption. The end of their coming is that you'll be paid. If you stay to the end of the service, you'll be paid. If you go earlier, you lose your money. And then we add it to our CV. He has gathered 200,000 people in one night. It's vanity. The media will carry it, but heaven will not note it. Is somebody getting me? You see, these things we are talking about brings me to another label that unlocks. Because when you come into the secret place, you begin to see God's measuring tools. And so the journey towards conformity is always an ongoing labor there. People, you will begin to weep for what people applaud when you get inside there. I found out if you stay long there, you'll be more critical when you come out. Because you'll be wondering, this thing has no reward. Many of our dark wisdoms will be cured if we enter there to find out that God is not seeing our labor. Have you heard ministers cry out before, say, God, where's your eyes? The minister is in a place where God is not viewing. So the first is that you see him. The second is that you see yourself. And then you begin to get the enablement to power the you that you have seen in him. I've shared it before. When we were at Lesbora Hall, before we moved to 40, and then before we moved to the Ark, somebody called me one day and said, you can preach small. I said, I can preach small. I know. I was born a talker. Not a talkative, a talker. If you give me half a chance, I will sermonize you in a television view center. He said, you can preach small. I said, you can also pray small. I can pray small. I don't pray too much. I can pray small. What else can you do? I can sing. But the voice is bad already. Because if you do, after a while, when you want, you say, I will lift up your name. The voice will have gone bad. Pastor Genesis, can you sing? Were you in the choir at any time? You can still be in the choir. You know I love you. Don't go to the choir. So, he now said, but you can't gather crowd. Well, crowd has never been my motivation. I said, but why? What did you see? He said, you can't see. So I was wondering at what he saw, but he said my problem was that I was blind. I said, see what? He said, you can't see the needs of people. You can't walk into a meeting and say, there's a way he said, you mustn't use behold, you must be pastors. And I beheld in the spirit a being clothed in the rainbow, descending from the galaxies. You need to learn the word so they will not take you seriously. So I said, honestly, I cannot see. I can't see beings coming. Can you see angels that are coming to this? I can't see. I still cannot see. Are you shocked? I was not created to see. What I lost for sight, or what I didn't lose it. What I don't have for sight, I have in perceptions. My perceptions are strong as sight. So when I say I see something, it's just prophetic language. It means they just catch something in my heart. And it works all the time. It will soon work now. Just wait. We're almost there. So he now said, and I said, yes, so that's a problem. I said, if you're in the midst of students, they need insight. You need to tell them they'll pass an exam, tell them they'll make money with this business. You need those things. I said, true. He said, so there's a minister down the road. He merchandises a bowl of water. You will not kill anybody. When you get there, just kneel down. Once you pay homage, you have access to the bowl. It's not even a calabash, it's in a plastic bucket. So it doesn't look diabolic. All he will tell you to do is to take a bowl of water and wash your eyes. And then you will now join that scene to these things that you can do. So you will take what God can give. We were speaking somewhere and a young man was telling the tale of how he went to a frontline minister. Who mentioned the name? That frontline minister is a master of sight in Nigeria. He's still alive. Me, I began to suspect because of the way of life of that minister. And he has a lot of followers. Selah. So he said when they went there, That there was something they did that made them begin to see. And I said, okay, is it water? I said, no. Their own was even more natural. He said they told them that a pastor, one of the pastors, will wake them up at 1 a.m. and feed them with rice. Somebody say rice. Have you heard it before that rice can be a gate to Cited? Because even rice has accommodation for seeing realities. If I mention the names of these guys that are seeing now, they are major prophets, major rising prophets who received their sight from a plate of rice. I said, Genesis, we're in trouble. So I now told the guy, I said, I was not born a preacher, but I'm preaching. I was not born a praying man, even though my induction was very early. It's grace that brought those abilities. I didn't sing out of the womb, I cried. Now I can sing. If I need to see, I will sing. I'll continue my journey. And that's the end of somebody's sermon. You do not know how many things you can embody. You do not even know how many things you currently embody as in seed form. You just need the environment of that secret place, engaging to know, engaging to see, engaging to come to clarity. Once the environment is right, the things will grow. Have you seen them pack a load of sand before? Do you see grass on it? If you leave that load of sand for a long time, what happens to it? Do they come to plant it? It's because in that load of sand, there are seeds of grass inside. It's just waiting for moisture. It's waiting for the rain. If the atmosphere is right, all of us can become the very things that we dreamt about. And when I use the word become, what I mean is not morph into, is grow into, because it's already there. Those deposits are crying out for an atmosphere. And you must jettison the crowd, take a break and escape into a place where it's just you and the Lord. When you come back, you will not be a product of I prayed long. Exposure to him is what will bring life to you. Well, that church down the road became very popular after a year. He was still a student in Lautech that time. This guy, the waterman, that's what I call him. He'll come into school with like 4 or 5 cars. His mates will kneel down for him. I don't even know if he's still alive or not, but it's not in the, it's no longer within the context of prevailing ministry in promotion. Because what God is raising is everybody that can see. Are you with me? I have every right to see my life. Abi, if I'm born again, I can see my life. If what I want to see is captured within the context of the kingdom, I can see it, because except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom. If my life is kingdom, then I can see it. So when everybody begins to see, it means those who have merchandise sight will lose their job. Like if you used to be a graphic artist, these AI drawings have caught up with you. You need help. If you used to rent clothes for people to snap pictures, you are out now. Because people now wear suits in pictures that they cannot afford. Bro, don't marry somebody because of an AI picture. I assure you, what you see is not what you get. You know that picture. You know what you ordered. I saw one guy and I thought he had relocated. I said, Victor, you're in the UK now? He said, no. Say, I'm still in worry. The guy was looking all fresh, all the freckles on his face had disappeared, and he was wearing a mafia suit. I said, okay, does anybody do those pictures here? Okay, did you choose what you want to wear inside? Okay, there are templates. Somebody sent me one. I said thank you, but the thing does not look like me. Does not look like me. I like the way I look. I like the way I look. Day by day, dear Lord, of these three things I pray: to see thee more clearly, and to love thee more dearly, and follow thee more nearly. Day by day, help me see thee more clearly, and love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly. Day by day, just help me see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, and follow thee more nearly. Solo Mahaya. Oh, day by day, just help me see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, more dearly. Ultimately, this is for leaders, pulpit ministers. Your congregation will look like you. You cannot pastor from the outer court and produce inner or innermost court, or produce an innermost court congregation. Even if you teach that they should be in the innermost court, they will ultimately be like you. You cannot be prayerless and encourage unto prayer. You cannot live inaccurately and successfully encourage to accurate living. For the sake of those that you lead, can you find the secret place?